Among the many symbols of ancient Egypt, few are as mysterious as the symbol known as Amenta. To the ancient Egyptians, the west was far more than a direction on a compass. It was the place where the sun disappeared each evening, where the dead were buried, and where the journey into eternity began. The symbol of Amenta represented the sacred western realm, a gateway between the world of the living and the world beyond. But what exactly was Amenta, and why did it become one of the most powerful symbols associated with death, rebirth, and the afterlife? The meaning of Amenta. The word Amenta, sometimes rendered as Amentet or Amentet, literally means the west. In Egyptian writing, it was represented by a hieroglyph showing a standard or sacred emblem positioned above a western hill or mountain. To Egyptian observers, the sun did not simply disappear. The setting sun marked the beginning of a divine journey. Each night, the sun god Ra entered the western horizon and traveled through the unseen world before being reborn at dawn. Because of this daily cycle, the west became a powerful symbol of death and renewal. Over time, Amenta came to represent not only a direction, but the sacred realm awaiting the deceased beyond the horizon. The beautiful West and the land of the dead. The connection between the West and the dead can be seen throughout Egypt. Most major cemeteries and royal necropolises were built on the western side of the Nile. The pyramids of Giza, the vast cemetery of Saqqara, and the Valley of the Kings all occupy the land of the setting sun. Ancient funerary texts repeatedly refer to the deceased traveling to the beautiful West. One Coffin text even proclaims, "Hail to you, beautiful West! See, I have come safely to you, you great lady." Although Amenta is often associated with the Duat, the Egyptian underworld, the two concepts were not identical. Amenta was primarily the sacred western realm, the destination and gateway of the dead. The Duat was the vast supernatural world through which both the deceased and the sun god traveled. In Egyptian belief, a soul entered Amenta and then journeyed through the mysterious regions of the Duat before reaching judgment and eventual rebirth. This distinction reveals an important aspect of Egyptian religion. Death was viewed not as an ending, but as the beginning of a journey. Amenta in the ancient texts. Amenta appears in some of Egypt's oldest religious writings. In the pyramid texts, composed more than 4,000 years ago, the West already appears as the destination of the deceased king. By the Middle Kingdom, the Coffin Texts describe the West as both a divine realm and a goddess who receives the dead. One spell welcomes the deceased with the words, "Welcome to the West, you young god, born of the beautiful West." In the Book of the Dead, Amenta continues to play a central role. A chapter known as the Chapter of Forcing a Way into Amentet speaks of entering the realm of the dead and identifies the deceased with Osiris himself. These texts were intended to guide the soul safely through the Duat and into eternal life. For thousands of years, Egyptians carried these beliefs into their tombs, coffins, and funerary rituals. The goddess Amentet. The concept of Amenta was so important that it became personified as a goddess known as Amentet, whose name means she of the West. She was often depicted as a beautiful woman wearing the symbol of the West upon her head. In funerary art, Amentet appears at the entrance of the afterlife, welcoming the deceased and offering water, food, and shade beneath sacred trees. Rather than a frightening figure, she was seen as a compassionate guide. Her role was to receive the dead and help them begin their journey through the divine realm. The promise beyond the horizon. The symbol of Amenta captures one of the most profound ideas in Egyptian religion. Every evening, the sun entered the west. Every morning, it was reborn. The Egyptians believed that human beings could follow the same path. To them, Amenta was not merely the land of the dead. It was the threshold of transformation, the gateway to eternity, and the promise that life continues beyond the horizon.